everyone, I am Camila. Welcome to our live baking session from Turkey Studio at City Center Murder. And today we are going to be making quiche Lorraine my style. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to log in. And then we're going to start. Okay? Now this quiche that I'm making today is so simple and it's so easy. There's no pre-breaking your crust. And this is my way that I'm going to do it. With very little ingredients. Okay, so for those who just logged in, I am Camila and we are live at Turkey Studio at City Center Murder, and we are going to be making a quiche Lorraine today my way. Okay, and we are going to start. Now, the first thing we're going to start with is our pastry, and pastry is very important. So you need all your ingredients to be really cold. So I'm going to tell you what I'm using for my pastry, and it's so simple. I am using unsalted butter. Now this butter is cut into tiny little cubes. You can even go smaller on it, but you want it to be very, very cold. I'm using all-purpose flour, 1 egg, and again, egg should be cold. Okay, you don't want any room temperature ingredients in your pastry, and a bit of salt. I'm going to be using my Magic food processor. Now you can do this by hand, but I do it by hand when you have a machine that's really easy to use. So we take it off, and we're going to start with first our flour. So my flour goes in, and this is the blade that I'm using. Okay, so you want to, if you don't know, this is the one we're using. We're going to pop this one in, and I'm going to pop my salt in. So I'm using just a half teaspoon of salt. Pop the cover back on. And I'm going to just blitz this just a little, just so that my salt mixes in my flour. Okay, so we're going on the pulse mode here. That's it. Next, you want to add your cold butter. So again, remember, cold butter in small pieces, unsalted. Now you can add all at once, or you can just add bit by bit. I'm just going to add all at once because my butter is really cold. Here. And I'm going to pop this one back in again. And again, we're going on the pulse. Remember, it's important. We're not going to go on the mix. We're going to go on the pulse. And we're going to bring this into like little crumb, just little pea-sized crumb in here. You can even count it. Remember, stop. You can just stop, check it, see what it looks like. Give it a little stir. Again. Now, if your butter is soft, you would have already started mixing it. So I'm going to show you what my mixture looks like before I start adding any kind of liquid to it. Now, see, it's like little crumbs. And if you notice, it's quite dry. And I'm seeing a couple of big pieces in, so I'm going to blitz it again. And I'm good here. Now I'm going to start adding my liquids. Now, I'm using 1 egg, and in the recipe has been posted, you would see 2.5 tablespoons of cold water. Now, your water should be really, really cold. You can put bits of ice in it to make it super cold. However, do not add all in at the same time. Depending on the temperature, your room temperature, you may not need water at all. Okay, depending on the type of flour you are using, you may not need all the water. So what I do is I whisk my eggs, I add it in. If I think I need extra liquid, then I start adding my water 1 teaspoon at a time. So I'm going to whisk this one. So this is the complete egg we're using here. Now my pastry that I'm making is a flaky pastry. Just give it a twist. Okay. And we're going to start adding this one. So I'm taking the top off. And again, pulse. Starting to come together. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cold water. Let's see what happens. And maybe I need just 1 more teaspoon. So I didn't even use 1 tablespoon. And we're going to pulse this until it comes together like a dough. It forms a nice little ball and you're done. Don't over mix your dough because then you'll end up with tough pastry. Nobody likes tough pastry. Okay, and I'm done. Let's just move this one out of the way. I'm going to pop this one out. And I want you to see my dough. Now for those who just joined in, what we're baking today is we're going to be doing a quiche Lorraine with a flaky pastry, my way. Now I want you to see my dough. See? Not sticky. Now my room is a little bit hot. So I am going to work my pastry. Now what I can do, if your room is hot, you can take your pastry, put it in a piece of cling wrap and chill it for at least 15 minutes in the fridge. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to quickly roll this one out and put it into the pan. Now, so someone asked if you don't have a food processor, what you can do is you can use 2 forks. Or you can use a pastry blender and just blend it into the flour until you get that small pea size. Okay, if you don't have a pastry blender and you don't have a fork, just use 2 knives. Okay? So I'm going to sprinkle some flour onto my board. I'm just shifting this a little bit, it's fine. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick how to roll your pastry, just to prevent it from sticking onto the table. We're rolling it between 2 pieces of cling wrap. Because you know sometimes you're rolling your pastry and what happens, it keeps getting stuck to the table and then you keep adding flour and you're adding flour and then you end up with a really tough pastry. You really don't want to do that. Okay, I'm just going to dust a tiny bit of flour, not too much. And here's my pastry. Take it off. Now I could have chilled this one a bit, because it's a bit on the soft side, because as I said, my room is a little bit hot. But we're live and we don't have all that time. What did I put in the pastry? Okay, so my pastry here. So try not to play with your pastry too much. I have all-purpose flour, egg, salt, and cold water. Now, you can make this into a flavored pastry by adding, if you want to make it a sweet pastry, add a bit of sugar to it, or you can also add a bit of dried herbs to it. It's really nice when you do a herb pastry. So I'm going to cover this out, and we're going to roll this out to about 1/4 inch thick. Now, you can go thicker, but what happens is that some people don't like a really thin crust, and some people like a really thick crust. I tend to like an in-between crust. Now, to see how I can just turn it around without having it to be adding more and more flour to it. And what I would do is I would pop this in the fridge just before I put it into my pan. Now, if your kitchen is nice and cold and your dough remains cold, feel free. You can put it into your pan all at once. I love to use this rolling pin. This is one of our nicest rolling pins. It's our Paul Hollywood brand. The weight is so nice and it fits perfectly in your hands. Now, so if you look at my pastry here, you can see I've gone a little bit, I think I'm a little bit thick, so I'm going to go out just a little bit more. And what you can also do is you can measure. Now, this is my Fat Daddy Do's pan that I'm using. Now, all these things that I'm using is available at our Tabola shop at the city center Meredith branch. Okay, you can also get it at our other branches, but we are here right now in city center. Now, if you notice this pan, it makes it super easy for you to remove your quiche without breaking it, because as I said, I'm making a flaky pastry. Okay, so if you're not sure how much do I roll out, measure. You just need a couple inches more than the size of your thing. So I'm going to pop this in the fridge just for a few minutes, and while this is just chilling, I'm going to chat with you a bit. Okay. So I'm putting it on a tray just to chill it a little, and I'm going to pop it in the fridge, and I'll be back shortly. Okay guys, so for those who just joined in, we are making a quiche Lorraine today with a flaky pastry. No need for pre-baking your crust. And now what I'm going to do while my dough is chilling a little, I'm going to talk about the ingredients that you can use in your pastry. So what I'm using today is just really simple ingredients. I'm using turkey for my quiche. Okay, you can use bacon, you can change the meat if you want. Okay, but I'm using smoked turkey because I like smoked meats. I'm using some shallots, and I tend to use this red one because it has a lot of flavor to it. We're using some chives, and I'm using heavy cream or cooking cream. Now, if you want to go a little bit healthier, feel free to use milk. Regular milk, low-fat milk, full-fat milk, but I'm using cooking cream here because I find it brings out the taste better in the quiche. And I'm also going to be adding a bit of nutmeg to my quiche. Okay, so I have nutmeg, and I'm going to use a little bit of smoked salt. It's a smoked garlic salt. Now you can change your flavors up a bit. The typical quiche Lorraine is made with bacon and cheese and maybe some shallots, but you don't have to stick with the typical one. You can make it your own. Okay. We're also using eggs. Now for my cheese, I have a blend of cheddar cheese here and also a blend of smoked cheese. You can use Gruyere cheese, you can use any cheese that you want, but these flavors are nice and sharp, so I like the taste that it has. But you can change it. Okay? Now, what I'm going to tell you again, so I'm going to be using a different dish to show you, because when you put your pastry in here, you want to chill it down. You want to make it as cold as possible. And the reason for that is because we are not pre-baking this, okay? So I'm going to show you one that I did before, and we're going to fill this. By the time I do that, I'm going to come back and show you how I do this thing, okay? Now, this is the pastry I did earlier today, and I'm using perforated pans. This gives you perfect crust. So if you have a pan like this is from our masterclass collection, and it's available at our Togola shop as well at City Center Meridian. So I'm using this one because it gives me a perfect crust on the outside. And if you notice, I can play with it a bit because it's frozen. Okay, so I have my frozen shell here, and I'm going to start mixing the mixture that I'm going to put into here. Okay, so first we're going to start with 6 eggs, and I'm using large eggs. And we're going to break each one. Now, I don't like to throw all my eggs into one. I like to break them separately, and the reason for that is if you have a bad egg, you don't spoil the whole lot. Okay? Also, if you get shells into your mixture, then it's easy to just take out if it's from one egg. Now, you can use, sometimes people ask me what to use, brown eggs, to use white eggs. It doesn't matter, it's your preference. See, I did 2 in this one. That's what happens when you're doing live, there's no do-overs. That's number 3. And we have number 4 here. And my eggs are cold. I just took them out just before we started the slide. Number 6. So here I have my 6 eggs. We're going to move this one out. Now I'm going to add to this my cream. Okay, so as I said before, I'm using cooking cream. And you can use any cooking cream. The brand is all up to you. And I'm going to put a bit of black pepper and salt in it. Now this mixture is already mixed. Now you have to be careful when you're adding salt to your tarts, because sometimes the meats that you use are already salted. So if you use too much salt into it, because you already have salt in your pastry, and if you add too much salt to this again, it's going to become too much. So I'm adding just a dash of salt and pepper, and I'm adding a little bit of my smoked salt. And we're going to whisk this one up. Excuse me. I think my pepper is really strong. And we're going to give this a quick little whisk. Now, if you have a bar mix at home, you can just whip it up so quickly. Okay. Now, you want to make sure that your mixture is really mixed in nicely. You don't want your eggs not mixed in well with the cream, because then what happens is you will have clumps of unmixed eggs in between. It doesn't look nice. See? And I move this one. Oops. So this is my liquid mixture that's going into my tart. Now, first step is we're going to add the shallots in. Now, quick little trick. If you want to bring out the flavor in this, you can saute it with a little bit of butter before adding it to this. Don't saute it until it's too soft. Just little, just to enhance the flavors. Okay? So I'm going to add this one. And again, you can add as much as you want or as little as you want. I like to add a lot. Okay, now we're going to add our meats in. And this again, this is my smoked turkey that I'm using. Oh, just a little bit more. You can't go wrong with a little bit more turkey. Okay, that should be fine. And we're going to add just a bit of these chives, chopped chives in. And I'm going to add some more to the top. Because the chives are very light, they're going to come up when you pour your liquid in. So make sure you put it all over, not in one spot. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add some cheese. So you're adding some cheese twice. So again, I have a mixture here of smoked cheese and cheddar, sharp cheddar. So I'm putting one layer of cheese first. Now there's no exact measurement when you're making quiche. Your pastry, yes, you need an exact measurement, but your ingredients, feel free to change it up. You can add a bit of green peppers to this. You can add a bit of chili flakes. If you like spicy, a little bit of sriracha. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this, just not all the way to the top, just a little bit. Just below the edge. So I am preparing a quiche Lorraine with a flaky pastry crust that you do not have to bake before. So if you can see my tart, you will notice I did not fill it all the way to the top. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sprinkle just a bit more cheese to the top of my tart. And you see, chives rose to the top. I love cheese. I think that's enough now. So I'm going to pop this in the oven at 185 degrees Celsius for roughly around 35 to 45 minutes, depending on the size of quiche that you're making. So make sure you preheat your ovens first. Let's put this one in. So I'm going to give this about 35 to 45 minutes, or just until the top is slightly brown and it's almost set in the center. You don't want it to be really hard in the center, okay? Just have a little jiggle in the center, okay? Now, before we finish, what we're supposed to do is line the tart pans. So I'm going to show you now how to line my tart pans. Let's just clean up here a little. I'm using the Factorido pan with the removable base, and this is I believe a 9-inch, so maybe 9 or 10-inch. Okay, I'm going to get my pastry. So this is my pastry I rolled out maybe 10-15 minutes ago. I'm going to take it off. And I'm going to give my pan just a slight spray. Now, the spray, it's a Fiesta non-stick spray, and this also has a bit of flour in it, so it's really good to use in your cake pans. Now, this has a lot of butter. It's really not necessary to spray it, but I just like to be on the safe side. Make sure you shake. Don't spray close, spray at a little distance, okay? That's about it, no need for more. Take it off, easy for me to lift out, and the different ways you can do this one. I like to just put my tart in really close, and gently place it over. Remove. Now, little trick to when you're putting your pastry in. Do not pull your pastry. You want to gently lift and push it down. Okay? In that way, your pastry will not shrink when it's baked. Okay? So we lift and we push it down again. And because you're using a pan that has a ribbed side, you want to gently press it into the sides. So guys, this pan that I'm using, all the equipment I'm using, it's available at our Tavola shop. If you come to the shop here at City Center Murdiff, just ask any of the staff and they'll tell you what I used in this shoot. Okay, so here is my pot. Now you're probably wondering, how do I remove the excess? Should I take a knife and remove it? No, I'll show you a trick, an easy way. Make sure it's pressed in nicely. Take your rolling pin and just gently roll it off the top. I'm using a 9-inch pan. So this part of my tart looks a little bit thicker. Now, remember I'm making a flaky pastry. You don't want to go too thin on this crust. Okay. And here we have our lime tart pan. One more thing before you put it to chill. We need to use a fork and you make some indentations inside of it. And this is so that when it's baking, it doesn't raise. And we can chill this. You can freeze it. You can pre-make your crust. Keep them in the freezer. When you're ready, bring them out, leave them for 5 minutes, fill them and bake it. No need to pre-bake this crust. And I'm going to pop this one in the fridge and I'll be back. Okay guys, so I'm going to do a quick little recap of what we did. We made a quiche Lorraine with flaky pastry, and I'm going to show you the finished product of what we did today. I'm so sorry for disappearing so many times. Now remember, we're using a pan with a bottom that's removable. So you don't want to just like take your hands and push it out. You want to put it onto something and then just gently remove. Okay? And here you have your quiche Lorraine. And if you look at the sides of it, you can see how flaky it is and how nice and brown it is. No pre-baking. Okay? So guys, I do hope you enjoyed our live session today. Please come to our shop at Tavola Studio at City Center Murdiff, and we're going to be starting classes soon, so I hope to see you all here. Any questions, anything you want to find out, please message us, DM us, and we will be so happy to help you.